Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive into Real Estate by Team Luddy Dillon. This is the place where we simplify real estate for you, one topic at a time. Enjoy.
Era almost.
Yeah, well, that's kind of taking a breather now. Prices are easing up, and well, suddenly there are condos everywhere.
It's like someone opened the floodgates. Exactly.
So if you're even thinking about dipping your toes in buying, selling, maybe just scratching your head wondering what is going on, you are definitely not alone.
Absolutely. It's enough to make anyone feel a little bit lost, right? When the market shifts this much, you really need to look past the headlines.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do in this deep dive. We're digging through the data, the analysis, trying to pull out what really matters for you.
Think of us as your, your real estate decoder ring.
Something like that, helping you figure out what's actually happening.
And, speaking of navigating this sometimes baffling world of real estate, this deep dive is brought to you by the Laddie Dillon's real estate team. Now, these aren't, fly-by-night folks. Laddie and the team, they've been helping people out in the Peel region that's Brampton, Caledon, Mississauga since 2007.
That's a long time. Seen a few cycles then.
Oh, yeah. Up, down, sideways. They've seen it all out there. So, look, we're part of Laddie's team, sharing this info to help you make, smart choices. If you're planning to buy, sell, invest out in Peel, seriously, Laddie knows that area inside out. Give him a shout before you make any big decisions.
Good advice.
All right, so this market reset we're talking about, it sounds pretty dramatic, like hitting the brakes hard. What does it actually mean?
That's a good way to put it. A market reset is basically a significant correction, especially after a period where things just shot up really fast.
Like we saw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the Toronto condo market, you've had a bunch of things coming together. Rising interest rates is a huge one, and it's led to this recalibration.
Yep.
So prices are adjusting downwards, and there are way more properties available, which means buyers, they're in a much stronger spot than they have been for ages.
Price tags are actually shrinking.
Oh.
Feels like yesterday everyone swore Toronto condos only went up.
Yeah, that was the feeling. But the numbers show it. Recent figures, Q4 2024, the average asking price per square foot for new unsold condos landed at $1,524.
Okay.
Now, the important part is that's a 10% drop from the peak. The peak was back in Q3 2022 at $1,689.
Wow, 10%. That's not just a little dip.
No, it's a real shift. It shows the market's adjusting to, the new reality.
And what about resale? Like condos that aren't brand new, are they feeling it too?
They are, yeah. Early 2025, the average resale price for condos across the whole GTA city and suburbs, it went down 1.6%.
Okay, 1.6%.
And here's the interesting thing. Condos were the only type of housing in the GTA to see prices drop then.
Really? Just condos?
Just condos, usually, detached, semis, they kind of move together more or less. So this really highlights the specific pressure on the condo market right now.
Okay, so prices are softer. But are people actually, buying?
Yeah.
Or is everyone just waiting?
We're definitely seeing a slowdown in sales activity. Early 2025, condo sales across the GTA were down 12.1% compared to the year before.
12% lower.
And it's even more noticeable right in Toronto proper, the 416 area code. Sales there dropped 14.5%.
Okay.
The 905 suburbs saw a smaller drop, 7.4%, but still it's a drop everywhere.
That definitely paints a picture of a cooler market. But I thought I heard something about new condo sales maybe picking up this year. How does that fit?
Yeah, that's an important point. There are projections for potentially an increase in new condo sales for 2025, maybe up from around 4,800 units last year to, say, 6,300.
So more sales?
Well, yes, but why is key? It's largely because a whole lot of new condo projects are actually finishing up this year.
So it's supply finally hitting the market.
Exactly. It's not necessarily a sudden rush of buyers willing to pay old prices. In fact, to move all this new inventory, we're probably going to see developers offering more incentives, adjusting prices to match where the market's at now.
Makes sense. And speaking of supply, I've heard the number of condos just sitting there for sale has ballooned. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. The jump in supply is a huge part of this reset. January 2025 saw, some analysts are saying maybe the biggest year-over-year jump in new listings ever. And condos led that charge.
Ever. Wow.
Yeah. To give you an idea, start of 2024, there were about 6,300 active condo listings in Toronto.
Yep.
By the end of 2024. Almost double, 12,000.
Doubled. That's a lot of for sale signs. So where are we now moving into this year?
Well, 2025 kicked off with around 8,500 active listings, and the projections, they suggest we might climb as high as 15,000 by year-end, still heading up.
15,000. Imagine your closet just suddenly overflowing, right?
Huh.
You've got way more options, and maybe the store is willing to give you a deal just to clear space.
That's a perfect analogy. That's kind of the condo situation right now, an overflowing closet.
Okay, so we have resale, new builds, but what about all those pre-construction condos people bought ages ago, the ones finally getting finished?
Mm-hmm.
How are they adding to this?
Yeah, that pre-construction wave is a really big deal right now. We're looking at roughly 31,000 new condo units expected to be completed in 2025.
31,000.
And some estimates go even higher, maybe up to 40,000. It's just a massive number of new properties hitting the market all around the same time.
And the challenge there is, these were bought when things were totally different.
Precisely. Many were bought years ago. Interest rates were rock bottom. The market vibe was, up, up, up.
Right.
Now those buyers have to close. But they're facing potentially much higher mortgage payments, and the value of the condo might even be less than they agreed to pay. Ben Myers at Bullpen called it a fundamental issue for developers this year and next.
So it's tough for those original buyers to get financing or maybe even justify the price now.
Exactly. It's a real squeeze for some.
And this is probably why we're seeing more of these assignment listings, right? Can you remind us what those are?
Yeah, that's directly linked. An assignment sale is when someone who bought a pre-construction condo sells their agreement to buy to someone else before the building's finished, and they actually take ownership.
So they're trying to get out before closing day.
Essentially, yes. It's a way to exit the deal. And the fact that we're seeing more and more of these assignment listings pop up now is really telling.
What kind of prices are we seeing on those? Like, give us a feel for it downtown.
Sure. We're seeing them in prime spots like Canada House, which is supposed to have occupancy around mid-2025.
Right.
You might see, say, a one-bedroom listed as an assignment for around $520,000. Maybe a two-bedroom for $899,990.
And how do those prices compare?
Well, sometimes they can look pretty attractive compared to similar resale units, or maybe even less than what the original buyer paid. It signals that seller is motivated.
So for a buyer who's looking, an assignment could be a way to get into a newer building, maybe quicker, possibly at a better price.
That's the potential opportunity, yes.
But for the person selling the assignment, sounds like they might be taking a hit or just trying to cut their losses.
That's often the reality. These listings really show both sides of the coin right now. Potential deals for savvy buyers, but also the struggles of people who bought at the peak and are now caught in this changing market.
Okay, right. So we've got a pretty clear picture now of what's happening. Prices down, way more condos available, lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
Let's get down to brass tacks. If you're actually in this market, what do you need to know? Let's start with sellers. People thinking about selling their Toronto condo. What's the number one takeaway?
For sellers, the absolute key thing is you likely need to adjust your price expectations significantly.
Okay.
The market has genuinely shifted. Trying to price based on those crazy highs of 2022, early 23, your place is probably just going to sit there.
So forget the peak numbers.
Forget the peak numbers. We're really seeing prices fall back more in line with, say, 2020 or 2021 levels.
So the days of let's just list high and see what happens are kind of over for now.
Pretty much. Competitive pricing isn't optional anymore, it's essential. Buyers have so much choice now.
Right, that huge inventory.
Exactly. They have options, they have leverage. Sellers who get that price realistically from the start, they'll have a much better chance of selling relatively quickly compared to someone chasing yesterday's market.
What about timing? If you're thinking of selling this year, is it better to do it sooner rather than later?
Well, looking at the projections continued, maybe slower, price softening, and still more supply coming online.
Yeah.
Our analysis suggests that, listing earlier in 2025 might get you a better result than waiting until later in the year. That supply-demand imbalance doesn't look like it's fixing itself overnight.
So get ahead of potentially more downward pressure. Makes sense. Okay, sellers.
Yeah.
Be realistic, price competitively, maybe act sooner. Got it. Now, flip side, buyers. What's the story for them? What doors are opening?
For buyers, this market shift presents some really big opportunities. The most obvious one, more bargaining power. Way more.
Because there's just so much to choose from.
Exactly. High inventory still rising. Buyers have a much wider selection. And that choice translates directly into negotiating leverage. We're seeing price cuts, conditions coming back, other concessions. It's much more common.
So if you felt totally beaten down by bidding wars before, now could be really different.
Completely different story. Yeah. Buyers who maybe felt sidelined during that frenzy, they're in a much stronger position now. You can
Yeah.
be more patient, compare properties properly, negotiate terms that actually work for you. It's a whole new ballgame for buyers.
That must be encouraging, especially for first-time buyers.
Yeah.
Has this price drop actually made it easier for them to get into the market finally?
It definitely creates potential paths, yeah. For first-timers who felt totally priced out of Toronto condos, this helps.
Okay.
Now, affordability is still a challenge, obviously, because interest rates are higher. That hasn't gone away.
Right, the mortgage costs.
Exactly. But the combination of lower asking prices and the potential for sellers to be more flexible, it can certainly improve the math for someone trying to buy their first place.
Okay, sellers need realism, buyers have more power. What about investors? People looking at condos as an investment. How should they approach this market?
Investors.
Mm.
It's a bit more complex, requires careful thought. On one side, yes, the lower entry prices could be attractive for long-term value.
Because Toronto's fundamentals are still strong.
Exactly. Toronto's still growing, diverse economy, lots of immigration planned. Those underlying strengths haven't vanished. So this correction, it might create better entry points if your horizon is long-term.
But it's not just buy low, sell high right now. I heard rumblings about the rental side.
That's the crucial counterpoint. Yes, the rental market in Toronto is still pretty strong, relatively speaking, but rents haven't shot up nearly as fast as ownership costs have, thanks to those higher interest rates.
Ah, the costs are up more than the income potential.
Precisely. That gap can create real cash flow problems for investors buying now, especially if they need a mortgage at today's rates.
So the monthly numbers might not work out.
They often don't, especially in the core. Investors really need to run the numbers. Thorough cash flow analysis factor in all the costs, vacancies, realistic rents. Finding a condo that pays for itself right away in downtown Toronto, it's definitely harder now.
So less about quick flips, more about a long game for investors. Buy and hold, maybe?
That seems to be the smarter play right now, yes. If you have a longer perspective and you can handle potential short-term dips or periods where it doesn't quite cover costs, then these lower prices might look pretty good down the road. This reset could lead to more sustainable prices, setting a better foundation for future growth, especially once rates eventually stabilize or come down.
Okay, looking ahead then, what's the overall feeling for the rest of 2025, maybe into 2026? Where's this heading?
Well, the signs point towards this correction continuing through most of 2025. You've got the impact of higher rates still filtering through, all that supply we talked about,
Yeah, inventory.
and just, more caution from buyers and investors. All that likely keeps putting downward pressure on prices for a while longer.
And we might see builders pause new projects.
That's quite possible, yeah. Developers might hold back on launching new towers until the market feels a bit more stable or favorable.
And those poor folks who bought pre-construction at the peak, they're still facing that tough closing period.
Yes, absolutely. For buyers closing on units bought at peak prices in 2025, maybe even into 2026, it's likely going to be challenging. We might see developers having to get creative to help those deals actually close.
But maybe, just maybe,
Right.
there's a silver lining. This whole reset could actually be good for the market long term.
That's the potential upside, yeah. It's painful for some in the short term, no doubt, but it could lead to a more sustainable foundation for the Toronto condo market.
Also,
By bringing prices back more in line with, incomes and economic fundamentals, it could create a more balanced, maybe even a bit more accessible market for everyone down the road.
right, a necessary if uncomfortable adjustment. Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive then.
Yeah.
Toronto condos. Prices have dropped noticeably. Inventory, way, way up,
Huge jump.
which means the power has really shifted towards buyers.
Mhm.
Sellers, you got to adjust those expectations. Buyers, you've got more choice, more room to negotiate, maybe even a chance for first-timers. Investors need to be careful. Focus on the long game. Really scrutinize the cash flow numbers.
Absolutely critical.
Understanding all this is just, well, it's crucial if you're thinking about making any move in Toronto real estate right now.
For sure.
And just a quick reminder, if you're looking out in Peel Region, Brampton, Caledon, Mississauga, the team at Laddie Dillon Real Estate, they've been experts there since 2007. They really know that specific market.
Good resource out there.
Definitely worth a call. So as you're digesting all this, what's the thing that surprises you most about how the market's changing? Or maybe what's your next step going to be in figuring out this new landscape? Definitely some food for thought there.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We will be back with something new and something interesting.